Yeah, we're live. We are live. You can see I'm a mess. That's because I've been working on junkyard motors all day. Welcome to the show. It's a live feed. Today we're going to talk about a couple things. One is I took the 1 liter, the big block down. I have from a viewer and actually a customer of West Tex also, Mike Davis. He stopped by today. It was great to sit down and chat with him because he had a number of things that I'm really excited about, jealous about. One is that he has a 3500 dually with an 8.1 in it, with a turbo on it, running on pump gas, and has been doing it for years and years and years and years. So obviously that's possible and it can be done. He tows with it, like heavy duty towing, all the time. So it's a great combination, and it proves that, because one of the things that I get is when we run something on the dyno, it is kind of a perfect kind of environment, and we have control over. We don't change the temperature inside, but obviously it's not under the hood. We have open air, and so it's going to do as good as it can do in that environment, probably better than in the vehicle. So a lot of people think, well, the dyno doesn't do anything. That's not real world. That's not what it is. But the reality is that the numbers that we're generating on the dyno with the 8.1 with a turbo are actually being put into use in the real world. And not just like, it would be cool enough if the truck was just like a go out and drag race truck. It's a big heavy dually, crew cab kind of thing. So it's a big serious truck, and it has a big serious motor, and it would be cool enough if that was just going out and drag racing, because that would be awesome. But it's going out and being used as a truck, which is cooler because it can do both. It makes like a massive amount of torque that we saw with the 8.1 NA, and then also under boost. That's actually happening. Even that's not just in the artificial world of the engine dyno. It's actually out in the real world. And so it's a stock bottom end. And I'm going to try to have him on the live feed so we can discuss this at some time, because that would be just great. Because I'm sure he has a lot of stories about this thing. Because like I said, he's got hundreds of thousands of miles on this thing. So it's already been proven that yes, it does work, and it works on pump gas, and so you can take the information that we're getting from the dyno and generating those kinds of power numbers and actually go put them to use out in the real world. Obviously, the tune for that particular thing is ultra critical, especially running on pump gas. But it can be done, especially at low boost, which is all you need for that 8.1 liter, because it has such massive torque. And he can hopefully, when I have him on here, he can tell you all about what all of the things that happen with the motor, but it's running around with a stock bottom end. He does have ring gap in it now, and he'll go over all that stuff. So that's kind of cool. The other cool thing that he did is he brought by. You guys can take a look here. I'll show you. So you can see over there on the ground. Well, can you see that? Not very well, huh? Is that any better? Can you see there on the ground? That is that in the darkness there. That is a cylinder head for an 8.1. And that over there is a flow bench. so we have an 8.1 stock head that I can now put on the flow bench and find out what are the real numbers. What does that thing actually flow? And not just that, not just the flow numbers, which will be very good and beneficial, because I don't know what they really are. And I'd like to know on the flow bench that I test all the time with, so I can compare them to other things that I've tested on that flow bench. But not just that, I want to find out things like what is the stock spring rate, what is the stock installed height, what is the available retainer to seal clearance, because that's going to limit the kind of camshaft that we can run. Even if I put more spring rate in it, which you definitely would do with most of these cams, like that ZZ502 cam that I want to run, or the HO cam, or even some of the milder cams, maybe a small radar cam or something, I would want to put spring rate in it. But even if you did that, if you go too high in lift and you run into a retainer to seal clearance problem, your day is still going to end. And so those are all good things. The coil bind, obviously I'll get coil bind information, at least on the stock spring, because that will give us an idea. But you would have to measure that on all the springs that you put in, because that's all going to change. But I want to see, what we can get away with there. And then that will help steer us in the right direction. When we have that information and the flow information, I want to do a chamber volume on to measure the valves. I just want to have all of that information for the 8.1 guys. And he also sent an intake manifold. See over there sitting next to the flow bench. He supplied an intake manifold, so I can take a look at that too. And he showed me what was going on with, because obviously when I ran mine on the engine dyno with the turbo on it, I'm pressurizing the crankcase. The fact that I had it open because we had I had the fill neck off, it didn't create a problem. And in fact, I didn't see a bunch of oil or any blow by or anything coming out of there. But that would have to be cured. And for me to do that, I would have needed to take the intake manifold off. And I could have done that. And he showed me driving around in his, he has a check valve on the valve that goes from the intake manifold down into the valley. So all of that stuff is easy to solve. And it's all things that we've seen before in other applications. But it's kind of cool to put it all together and see it actually like out working. So I'm going to put the head up on the airflow bench. I might be doing that tonight. I already ran the, as a matter of fact, that could be a good poll for tonight. Okay, poll for tonight. So here's the discussion really for tonight. I went to the wrecking yard and got two motors. One of them turned out to be an all aluminum L33, I think it is, Gen 3 motor, 799 heads. And then the other one was specifically, I went to get a 4.8 because I wanted to do some specific cam testing with the 4.8. Because that all aluminum motor was there, I grabbed that also to make sure that because it's an all aluminum 5.3. You should always have that if you see one of those in the wrecking yard. So we're going to go take a look at that. But what my goal was to get them both run, and I'm putting the 4.8 up. And what we're going to do tonight is you guys can hang out with me while I go through the test procedure that we do. I did this on the 5.3 where we go through the test procedure to find out. The first thing I did last night was take all the spark plugs out. I just rotated around with a ratchet just to make sure that, do I have compression? Is there stuff coming out of there? And there is. So that's a good step. I mean, that's a good sign. So the next thing I do is I'll put the motor up on the dyno, and then we'll cap all of the openings for the crankcase. And then I'll pressurize it with an air hose. And then we'll take a look at the oil pressure gauge. And what we're looking for is something like 1 to 2 PSI. And we want to, I want to, after we put oil in it, obviously an oil and filter, new oil and filter. And what we're doing is pressurizing the crankcase and then getting oil up to the pump. And then when we take all the plugs out, so it'll spin over faster. And then we use the starter on the dyno to turn it over and spin it so that the oil pump will spin and grab oil and then lubricate all the rest of the motor. And then what I look for is how much oil pressure do we have when we're cranking that over? First, does it have any oil pressure? Because that's really critical. And then how much does it have? Does it have 20? Does it have 100? Normally it's going to be somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the 30 to 40 range is kind of the go-to thing, the way that we spin it with the starter. So that's what we're looking for. So that's what I'm going to do tonight on the 4.8. My question for you is, because you always have your fingers crossed with these wrecking yard motors, and it doesn't always turn out the way that you want it to, because that's how life is. But the poll for tonight is I already put the 5.3 up on we just mounted on the dyno so that it will spin over. I put the 5.3 up on the dyno, and hooked everything up to make oil pressure. So did the 5.3 have oil pressure? That's the question for tonight. So, meaning we think it could be a runner. So did the 5.3 Junkyard L33 have oil pressure? Okay, So did the junkyard, did the 5.3 junkyard L83 have oil pressure when I cranked it over? Was it a yes or was it a no? And then what we're going to do is we're going to go in, and I'm out of focus again, and I'm focusing, and I'm focusing. We're going to go in, and then you guys can, I'm going to set you guys up so we can all hang out, and I can go through that procedure, and I'll just talk about what's going on and what we're doing to try to get the thing prepped so we can cap all of those holes and then put some pressure in it and spin it over. And we'll just, you know, again, we'll have our fingers crossed because you never know on the junkyard motor. So let's go in there. The other cool thing that Troy did for me, and I'll show you when we get into the dyno cell to get you all situated here. So I'm going to set you down right here first. I'm going to grab your ladder. Okay, give you guys a bird's eye view. Try not to grab anything with my camera. Okay, there we go. Now we can see that, my friends, is a 4.8 liter. Well, and I say that I was going by the VIN, so I'm hoping that it's a 4.8 liter. You can always obviously put a different motor in there without any problem. So this is our nice Champion race plug here that we put in just to cover the hole. So we have it mounted to the dyno. It's still it's a little wobbly. It's not all the way on yet. We would tighten those. We'll put all the bolts in and stuff. But what I want to see before I hook up the harness and exhaust and water pump and all that stuff, before we do any of that, we want to find out if the thing is it even like a viable candidate to dyno. Because many times I've gone to the wrecking yard, selected a motor, just based using my spider sense, you know, oh, this one feels good. So using my spider sense, and it's not 100% accurate as it turns out. We try to, you know, spin them to see if they'll spin, and that's usually a pretty good idea. When I went and got the 4200, we went to even greater lengths. We actually took a battery and cranked it over and put oil in it, measured oil pressure and stuff. And so that was a little bit better idea. On this one, what we're going to have to do is we want to cap all of the openings. So we have one here. We have one here. We have the dipstick hole. Where else? That's still plugged. That's all good. So, and then once we cap those, I'm going to use an air nozzle. I got to hook up the oil pressure gauge. So that's this right here. So this is our line. But before we do that, I'm going to have to get the fitting for it. So we will get going with that stuff. So first thing we'll do is we're going to pull off the oil fitting on the back of the block. I'll show you guys that. So we just take off the sending unit, and then what we do is replace that with our fitting. So we've got a fitting here with a, you know, steel AN on there. Put that in. Tighten her up. So we don't have any leaks. Okay. Then we have the line going to the dyno up to the gauge and also to the sending unit that we monitor and record inside the dyno. We're fitting on. Okay, that's nice and tight. And then what we have to do is cap a few of these holes. Let's see here. Get a piece of hose for that, cap that one. We'll cap that one pretty easily. So to make it quick and easy, what I like to do is slide on a piece of hose. All I got to do is zip tie this. It actually doesn't have to be like a perfect seal. As long as we can create enough pressure in there that's not all leaking out. Okay, put our sensors in. There's a sensor in there. That sensor. And actually, that has a plug in there. So I think what we'll do is pressurize this one. We've already got a plug in the dipstick hole. The dipstick hole is normally the one that I use. Bring our hose in. Get my trusty air nozzle. One of the critical things, obviously, we have to put oil in it. So to help the thing get oil quicker and is to generate oil pressure, what we're going to do is we got a filter. We're just going to fill the filter all the way up. You know, it'll take a couple of times because it'll bubble through. So we'll fill this up and then put the filter up and then fill the rest of it up. So you'll see that it gets full. Yeah, I'm spilling it. It gets full and then it'll drop back down. So we got to keep doing that a couple of times to get it nice and full. So while we're waiting for the filter to percolate over there, and I've already drained the oil out of the pan. There actually wasn't any. There was some in the filter that was still sitting on here. The other motor, the 5.3, didn't have a filter on it. I was a little concerned. That thing the aluminum motor came out of a serious rust bucket. Okay, see how our filter's going. Bubble back down. Okay, now as you pull, you gotta lubricate the seal there before you put it on. Get this thing on here. It's all good. Okay, tighten her up a little bit. And then see where we are as far as total oil. Maybe a little bit more. I normally run about 4.5 quarts on the dyno. Okay, so we're looking pretty good. What I'm going to do is, the universal wrencher. I'm going to tighten up the legs of the dyno just so it doesn't move around a lot. Okay. Snug. So then what I'm going to do, I'm going to move you guys closer so that you can see the oil pressure gauge. Actually, I'm going to turn you around. Thinking that you guys are going to want to look at this. Okay, so what you guys are going to want to watch is this number right up here. That right there is the oil pressure. So what I'm going to do is crank the motor over, and I'll spin you guys around again too so you guys can see it, but that's what you're going to want to look at. We're going to want to see what that oil pressure is doing, and that will show when I first start to put some pressure in the crankcase. So I got my air nozzle. So we got to put my oil cap on. Hard to get pressure if that's off. Okay, let's see what we've got going on. Okay, so you can see a building pressure there. Yeah. Yeah, we got oil pressure. I know I'm yelling at you guys. So I'll take you over here so you can see the mechanical gauge. So this is our mechanical gauge. So what you want to do is you'll just watch that when I crank it over. You'll see it's right now, it's down at 0. Right now it's at, yeah, it actually reached 40 psi. Yeah, right at 41 psi. So that's actually pretty good. You know, and see, when we pressurize it, it just takes a couple of seconds or so to actually get it going. So that worked out really well. That's actually a good sign for the little 4.8. It has you know, some kind of cranky compression. I didn't do a compression test. All I did was the Super Richie style, but it did have compression on all the holes. So now we have oil pressure. That's a good sign. So now what I would do is put the thing the rest of the way together and go ahead and try to run it and see if I can, you know, see if we can make some power with it. Because if it goes up, usually if it has you know, compression in all the holes, it seems like it's turning over fairly even, and it has oil pressure like that, usually it's a good solid candidate. I'm a little concerned because you take a look at if you take a look at the oil that came out of the filter, it's not pleasant. Doesn't smell like the automotive death though. It's more like that it's maybe never been changed. So I'll go ahead and what I'll do is I'll just keep going. If you guys want, I'll just keep going and try to get everything prepped and moved over. So let's see how our poll is doing. We've got 122 votes. Come on, we got 178 guys here. You guys can get up there and vote. Did the Junkyard 5.3, which I've already set up in the same manner as this, on here to see if we had oil pressure. Did that 5.3 have oil pressure? I'm actually going to stop the poll at 30 minutes, and right now we're at 27:45. So I'm going to keep working on this and see if we can, how close we can get this thing to running before the hour's up. And I've got to run this tonight because I've got it has a stock cam in it now. I have 2 other cams. Then I have to install all of this turbo stuff that's down here. All this stuff, air coolers and various turbos, and get that. So I've got to run the thing NA, do 2 other cams in it, and then run it turbocharged and do, you know, the same kinds of cams, do 3 cams essentially, because I want to do it with a stock cam as well and demonstrate what that does. Because I get asked a lot, hey, well, what, you know, can I run a turbo with a stock cam? And the answer always is yes. You can run a cam with whatever turbo you ask me about that comes after, can I run this cam? The answer is yes. Stock cams work, you know, all of the cams work. But I'm going to show you what happens, hopefully, if this works out well, on a 4.8. I'm going to show you what happens when you run a big cam and a small cam, what effect that has on boost response down low. So we'll see. So I will keep going on this, and we'll see if you guys, let's see. Poll says if it spins, it wins. So it looks like everybody's saying that the L33 did have oil pressure. Come on, you guys, rock the vote, rock the vote. This one obviously does. So this little 4.8 wants to live. I like that. Oh, the other thing that happened today is all of the exhaust bolts on this side were all broke. They were all broke off flush. And so Troy welded them up and spun them out. So he did an awesome job. The other side was not too bad. It had, I think it had 2 of them that were bad. Yeah, and so we only had to do 2 of them on that side, so that's nice. I think the other one might take a couple also. The end ones are normally the ones that go out, and that's what happened on that one, and that's what's going on with my truck right now. So we obviously need to cure that, but I'll have to take it off and we'll have to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna grab some gloves and just get to work on this thing and see how close I can get it to transfer the stuff over, hopefully from the 5.3 and get it running. But where are we at? Are we at our 30? Yeah, we're at our 30 mark. So the answer to the poll is yes, it did have oil pressure. Not only did it have oil pressure, but it had power. So I already ran it. So we'll get to walk in and see. So I'll close the poll out there. We'll get to go in and I'll show you how much power it made. I was only able to run it with the stock exhaust manifolds for fear of taking them off and breaking them all off. We're going to do that now. Basically what I wanted to see was, is that motor a good candidate for running and doing testing with? And as it turns out, it is. So that's a big score. The aluminum motor, and it's a runner. The oil pressure was very good. The power was good. It was exactly what I thought it would be. This one has good oil pressure under cranking, which I like. So now I can run this and get this thing up and running, and I will have run it tonight. And then the other thing I want to do after I run this, because it's already set up to run an LS, I've already run the other 5.3 liter. This will be very, very quick. I already have a tune for the 5.3. It's going to be close enough to this that all I have to do is go in and change a few numbers based on the power output. The timing's probably going to want to be exactly the same, but we'll play with that a little bit. So this will be very quick to run the 4.3 versus the 4.8 versus the 5.3. They have the same cam. This one has 706 heads and not 799 heads, but they're going to be really close because I know from the power output that L33 made that it's going to take only like minor tuning. It's probably 2 or 3 pulls and we're probably done. I do want to make a fairly wide, long pull. So I want to start from, let's say, 2000 or something if I can. 2500 might work on the 4.8 because we'll probably still see, we'll still be able to see turbo response there because I'm going to use a T6 turbo, which is not ideal. But what I'm trying to show something specifically to demonstrate what happens when you make more low-speed power, that you do improve turbo response. And you do that regardless of whether the thing is officially a turbo cam or not. Let's see. Okay, I see that there's some knucklehead on here. Yeah, I don't understand why people just want to go off. But when they do, they're gone. So I'm going to start working on this. If you guys have questions, post them up there. I'll try to swing by and answer them as I'm doing this. Okay, one of the things we need to remember to do is take these off. Because if everything's sealed, it's not going to be having to try to run it. And that can stay there. That's good. That's open. That's capped. That's all good. We have enough oil in there. Okay. You know what? Actually, I think even before I do this, I think we're going to take that fuel rail off. So, yeah. I don't know how fuel continues to stay on those rails all the time for like years and years. Put that one out. Stick our new fuel rail on there. Take the new fuel rail off of the 5.3 liter. So we have a whole assembly there. Rail, injectors, even the harness is already on there. Doubles as starting fluid. So these are 80-pound Deca injectors. These came from Excel. And they're taller than the factory injectors. But what we do is we just run longer than stock bolts. You could put a spacer in here if you wanted to snug it down for the dyno test. For me, it doesn't matter. It's just holding that in place. Works good. You're probably gonna have to get a little bit longer in that one. Okay. Make sure all those are started. Oh, that could be a little longer. Give a little bit of a, not too much though, because you're only basically just bending plastic. You just want to hold it in place. Okay, that's good. And then what we have is a rubber line here and fitting on it. Hook that up to our regulator. Okay. Fuel system's taken care of. Start hooking up the Holly harness. Like to make sure the grounds are on. And I already have pulled the fuses out of the Holly, so we don't get any weirdness while I'm hooking this up. We got 2 grounds on this one. We got our crank sensor. Plug that in. Tighten up our grounds. We got a cam sensor, although we're not running it in sequential, we're running it batch right now. Our injectors that were already hooked up to the rail, we'll plug that in. That's nice. Now we can hook up our coil packs. Coil package. Grab our 10mm. Buzz these babies on. Make sure we plug this into our harness. This for the coil pack. Got one on the other side. Right there. Okay, got coils hooked up. I've got injectors hooked up. So now I'm going to hook up the snap sensor. And in order to do that, I like using this little port that's off to the side here. A cap over it from the factory. So I just grab it and twist it off, and it's kind of ready to go. There are others you can use. Right now it has a 2-bar map sensor on it because we're going to run boost. Okay, that's all good. One of the things that I forgot when I first started the 5.3 is right up here. I'll show you. So the top of the intake manifold has a good sized hole in it, as I found out. It high idled. But I just took this off the other motor. As a matter of fact, I stole it off of here and put it on the 5.3 so it would run. And now we just got to put it back. It's got a little lowering on it. Slide that down. Cool. Take off put on our manual throttle body. Both of these motors had drive-by-wire throttle bodies. So if anybody's looking for a drive-by-wire throttle body, I have one here. You can have it. We just run these stock motors. This is kind of a stock throttle body. It's painted black, but it's basically a stock drive-by cable or mechanical throttle body, whatever you want to call it. So for the harness, we got to hook up our TPS and our IAC. This is the IAC plug. TPS, orange, green, black. Come on. There we go. And then we got a coolant temp sensor. We don't always use that, but oh, no, we're gonna need one of those. So again, I'll pull that off the other motor. That's really the great thing about having wrecking yard motors is that if you're missing one little piece, you could just go grab it off of the other one. Rather than, it would be expensive. It would nickel and dime you to death if you kept having to go to the auto parts store again. I mean, these TPS sensors, I think that they're 30 or 40 or 50 bucks. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. So we'll put our sensor on there. Just mostly to plug the hole. Okay, we got that. We are not using the factory regulator. I'm just feeding it in. We've got an air mode, a big air mode fuel pump. We've got an air mode regulator. It's deadheaded. It just runs one line into this and supplies the fuel for all the injectors. So we're looking good so far. Oh, I am gonna have to plug. There's a hole. I'll show you guys. Take a walk with me. Walking, and we're walking. We're walking. So this is where the factory map sensor was, and I'm gonna have to plug that. I'm also gonna have to plug that one. Otherwise, those would be pretty sizable vacuum leaks. But none of that's a big deal. This one I've already plugged. This is a plug that I had. It's got a little slide receiver there. If we push that back, we can pull that out. It had the big hoses on it before, but lucky I have that plug just hanging around. Makes it easy to. But that way we don't have to put a big old vacuum cap on it. So we got our map sensor hooked up. So we'll take off this piece of hose here because it's already split and not doing us any good. And then what I do is just get a little bolt. Get a little bolt, a little high voltage. Boom. That's done. Except now when I go to pull it out, it will probably leave that inside the manifold. It's just, that's kind of par for the course. Once again, vacuum cap, so I can go ahead and just put this one on. All we're trying to do is just cure the big ones. I mean, I'm not trying to get this thing to idle and drive around. It will, I think that the last one, I think the 5.3 was idling about 32 kPa or something. So it was, it's a stock cam. It's really mild. I ran the other one with stock exhaust manifolds and just extensions. I probably will put headers on this one. So I'm missing one plug wire. So the other thing I did on the 5.3 liter, the plugs that used old plugs that came out of the 8.1, I just put those in the 5.3 because I had replaced the plugs in the 8.1. We had put the NGK TR6s in when we ran boost, and then so I took out the stock plugs, whatever they are, but they're a long reach tapered seat plug. So I just put those in there and they ran fine. So I'm going to take those out and they're going to do double duty and they're going to go in the 4.8 now. I guess technically that's it's really triple duty since they were already in. They also ran in the 8.1 liter. Okay, so we've got all the factory plugs. You can see, nothing too exciting there. They got about I'm going to bring the gap down. There, I'm liking that. Man, these are like mega gap. Even gap ties. Did a double slice of gapperoni. Come on, cooperate, go in there. Okay. The other side. So I was thinking about the one thing I've never done that people have asked me to do is, have you ever run one of these without headers on it, without any exhaust on them at all, just open exhaust pipes? And I've never done it, or open exhaust on the head, and I never have. I think you get to see like all kinds of fire and flames and stuff, which would be awesome. So we'll do that. No dyno zoomies though. GM uses SPS bolts. So what I want to do is, I'm thinking about want to try to start start this thing like this. I think I've never done it before. I think it would be kind of cool. Yeah, I think it would be a fire show. I've never started one like that. And if we just started and just started it up, I know it's not going to hurt it. I just want to make sure that these are. Click, click. Man, those are all tight. Check the first one. Oh, that was a little loose. Loosey goosey. Okay. Click, click. I don't know, well, it seems like it's okay. Okay, so we've got crank sensor, cam sensor, injectors, coil packs, oil pressure. We have fuel. We can't hook up an O2 sensor because we can't. So I'm thinking maybe just crank it up and see what happens. Because I think we're about ready. So put these back in. Sensors in there. That's there. What do you think? Are we ready? Flames come out. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want to see, right? So you guys will get to see some flames. I'll go ahead and I'm going to have to put the water pump on, but we'll start it without that. I just kind of want to see what's going to happen. So let's try. So we've got fuel is hooked up. That's all tight. That's all good. Okay. Always got to make sure we have fuel. Okay, we're very close. Except I need a throttle. You definitely need a throttle. And you know, because it's me, it's going to be a Super Richie drive-by cable throttle body, or throttle. Throttle linkage on there. And voila! That's kind of super cool, huh? Nice. I'll make sure I tighten that. It does indeed shoot flames. What do you know? So let's go in real quick before it's time to go. We'll take a look at the. Oh, you want to turn the lights off? Yeah, it would be yeah, the plug wires are not gonna last. I'm gonna have to shoot some video of that. That's kind of cool. So we'll take a look at the dyno run before we go of the 5.3 liter. And then I'll do a couple quick questions, and then obviously got to get back to work. Okay, so I'll move you guys in. I'll zoom in there so you guys can see it. So we're looking at 358 horsepower and 383 foot-pounds of torque. That is the aluminum 5.3 liter. I think it's an L33. I was very happy with it because when we saw the oil pressure on cranking, it actually wasn't quite as high as this 4.8 is, but you can see here's the oil pressure curve. Okay, we're there. That's the oil pressure curve. So it starts out at 64 and ends up at 92. Now, obviously, this thing would, this is after a few runs. So I think that, let's see if it was higher on any of these earlier runs, maybe. Yeah, so it was even higher on some of the earlier runs. But this was actually, I think I made 7 pulls on this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, 9. So we made 9 pulls. So that's a pretty good oil pressure curve, but I'm really happy with the fact that the you know, all 8 cylinders are there, and our air fuel curve. 12.7, 12.3 or 4, yeah, 12.3.5 out there. It was a little bit rich on the load in. I'm actually okay with that. This was an exploratory thing, and besides, there's no power there because I ran it down as low as the 10s because I basically just used the. I started with the file that we'd run the 8.1 on, so you know how we do it. And now I want everybody to comment and say, "Yo, there's so much more power left in tuning." I tried it at a variety of different timing levels, 25, 27, 29 degrees, and it seemed to like 29 the best, and not by a lot, over 27 actually. Those are, like I said, those are used plugs. The wires are ones that I found laying around, just mismatched ones. So nothing is like perfect and optimized, but you know, that's how we do it. Because I just want to see that if it was alive and it was okay, and if it was going to be a, you know, kind of a future soldier. So let's see. We'll try to take a couple of questions here. Turn the lights out and hit it. Yeah, it is alive though. That's good. Have you tested the Texas Speed truck cams? I have not. I have tested a couple Texas Speed cams, but not their truck cams. With the lights out, you'll be able to see the firing arc. Cool. I'm definitely going to do a video on that before I put the. I'm going to put the water pump on it and get water going through it. But don't big bang the aluminum block. Put it in the. Plug wires are cheap. These certainly are, because I'm sure that these came off of one of the many junkyard motors. Turbo Monza. I have a 2002 Roush 360R. Would you be interested in working on it? I'm not a mechanic. I don't really work on stuff. When do you think you'll test the 8.1 intakes? Currently swapping one into a 78 Trans Am. I don't know. I think the intake is on its way. Amos sent one. This one is actually the one that I have that Mike dropped off is actually mildly ported too. Not a lot, not the extent that Amos's is. And I just got offered some other stuff, I think from the guys at Arizona Speed Marine, maybe. Mike, yeah, I should be flowing the head tonight because I'll run this. I'll run the 4.8, and then after I do that, I'll try to flow that head because I don't have the cams. I didn't pick the cams up for my storage to do the test, so I'll have to do that tomorrow morning. G Motorsports, what's up? Never saw Cylinder 3 fire. It's amazing that people can try to catch that stuff. Best LM4, LM7 engine. I think both of those are good, right? The 5.3 was good. I just showed the dyno results of the 5.3. It made 358 horsepower and 383 foot-pounds. Lawrence LT has a turbo 8.1 as 2000 Silverado. Mike Davis, who is here and I'm sure is going to come on one of the live feeds, has had a turbo 8.1 in his truck for like 10 years. So it predates all of us. It predates anybody that has done it recently. And he's put hundreds of thousands of miles on it. So I doubt anybody has more experience with them than he does. Fast, thank you very much. The 300 inline 6 cylinders, a 4.9 liter. This is an L33. I'm pretty sure. Extrusion porting is still around. It might help. That might be a good application actually for the 8.1. I can ask them about that. The intake that somebody showed me that I thought was Arizona Speed Marine was this cool cross ram with a big plate on it and then a big centrally mounted throttle body. It's completely different than what the factory stuff is, which is kind of cool. Bob, thank you very much. Mike Davis. Hugh, you're out. The intake on this motor on the 8.1 is not plastic, it's aluminum. Best turbo kit for the 5.3 liter in the Trailblazer body. I don't know. I don't know about specific turbo kits, only like turbo sizing. I haven't tested really different kits. Are you familiar with reputable dyno and performance shops in Salt Lake City? No, I haven't. I mean, I've driven through there, but I'm not that familiar with the area. Dan, it's not Mike David. It's Mike Davis. Davis. Mike said his truck has 578,000 miles on it. So that's a lot of experience. Trying to get the lighting just right. Richard, have you had many LS motors with low oil pressure resulting in oil pickup tube, the O-ring? I have. If you take a look at the video that I have, the low oil pressure video that I have, I think that was the problem we had. And I've run across that before. I've also run across low oil pressure problems when we put together new motors. And back then, it turned out that when we were doing like stroker assemblies, which I did a lot of, and we were pushing we were moving the windage tray down. A lot of times I wasn't doing that. I was just hammering them until they were clearance, and it just kind of beat up the windage tray. But when you space them with washers and you put the dipstick, it bolts on top of that. You're also pushing the pickup down toward the pan, and then if you get it too close, it just doesn't want to draw any oil. So that was that's another thing to think about, especially for guys doing stroker motors. Overbuilt, just got off the phone. Hope we see it. What CFM I would have to beat when he flow. Yeah, we'll flow them. I should have flow numbers tonight. When do we get the results of the Holly Cathedral Port race intake? So what is that? You guys will be seeing, the question was what happened to the 8.1? I was expecting to see a video. You're going to see a number of videos on it. I just haven't put them up yet. I've just been doing the live feeds because I've been so busy with all the dyno testing. Richard, you never told us why you think the dual plane crushed the long runner EFI intake manifold on the 4.8 liter. I think it's because there's more to intake manifold design than just runner length. Because if you look at it, a dual plane does not have that, but a dual plane has something that it does that enhances low speed torque more so than these EFIs, more so than the factory EFIs. Not all of them. If you look at the, I now want to go back and compare the cross ram Holly, if I have that, to a dual plane. And see, because the cross ram Holly made more low speed torque than the factory truck did, but that definitely was runner length. Seems like time for a big bang. $700,000. It's not a diesel. His is an 8.1, and it was 578,000. That's another update that I heard today. Steve Brulé let me know Dart is sending an intake manifold, so I will have a Dart one also to test. The Holly split intake, I tested that already. I compared that single plane, and you'll be seeing a video on that. Compared that to a dual plane. Is that really a race manifold though? Variable question, average price of an L33. Mine was the same price because I found it in a wrecking yard as the 4.8. So it goes from that to whatever somebody else would want to charge for that. Like I wouldn't sell it for that because it has a lot more value to me than that. A guy dyno testing today or on the chassis dyno had a 4.5 liter, I think it was originally a 4.3, but a 4.5 liter V6 from the old Grand National days, from the Bush Grand National stuff. It was an all aluminum Chevy V6 race block and somebody's aluminum heads and a weird like intake manifold. This is a really long-winded question. Will an L33 with 799 heads and flat top pistons make the same compression as a 706 head on a dish piston? I don't know. I'd have to calculate that and see what the change between those two is. I think honestly that a 799 head and a flat top piston makes higher compression than the dish and the 706 does. And then the question is, will the 799 make more than the 706 if the compression is the same? I don't think it does. It won't down low, I don't think. Oh, that's the other cool thing is Mike said that the turbo 8.1 will get 16 miles to the gallon. So if you want to call Mike out on that, that's okay. Seems like a lot, but it would be awesome if that's the case. How'd you fix the oil pickup tube in the stroker? We had to bend it actually. And his dually has an Allison transmission in it that's never had the pan off. So there you go, thinking that the turbo torque stuff is going to destroy the transmission, and his is still alive. Yeah, Dan, it was cool. It was an old school one. The guys, he had it in the rail, and the sand rail was built in the 80s. And so he had this V6. It had problems. Whoever put the motor together, I think, messed up on the piston to wall clearance or something, because it had a lot of blow by and wasn't sealing very well. So they didn't even end up dynoing it, but it was kind of a cool combination. Yeah, I thought so. Somebody was saying flat tops without valve release are 9.8 to 1 compression with a 799. That's got to be on a 5.3, right? It's gonna be higher than that on the 6.0. On a 5.3, and then the stock compression on a ALUM 7 is quite a bit below that. GT35 AT82 versus GT45 for a 5.3 and later a 6.0, wanting around 700. You're going to have to go with the GT45 to get that. I don't think that the 3582 is going to do that, and it's not going to be a 3582 is not going to be happy on a 6.0. So James, you got 17 miles per gallon on a 454 L29. Nice. Yeah, Dan, I'll show you. I'll grab that intake real quick. I'll show you what it looked like. So it kind of looked like this. I think that this is a 60-degree manifold, maybe. But that's what it looked like. So if you know what this intake manifold is, let me know. We've never run it on anything. It's West Tech's manifold. Ugh, pretty cool looking though. It's like a smoky Unique one. Yeah, two 35 GT3582s would be better on a 6-liter than one. Nickified performance. You have a 4.8 and a 6.0 bare block. Do you think it's worth putting some LS2 pistons in and building a D-stroke 6-liter? I got a sloppy stage 2. Do you need 6-liter pistons for that to be able to do that? So I wouldn't look at it like that. If you want to make more power, just build a 6-liter. The 6-liter is going to make more power. Let me grab something real quick. The 6-liter by itself will make more power than the D-stroke one. But if you want to look at it another way, and the way that I'm looking at mine that I'm doing, is if you put the 4.8 stuff in a 6-liter block, you're making a bigger 4-liter, a big bore 4-liter or 4.8 liter, and that's a better choice. So don't think about going from a 6-liter to something smaller that you think is going to make more power. That's not going to happen. But if you're going from a 4.8 to something that's bigger, that's definitely going to make more power, and it's going to open up other cylinder head choices for you. 2.8. That's what we thought it was, a 2.8 or 3.1 or something like that. I thought it was a 60-degree one. Do you have a good rule of thumb for how much volume added or removed to a cylinder head to affect the compression ratio? There are rules for different kinds of heads that have that. My rule of thumb is like I think it's like 8 cc's is one. But see, you can't do that. It doesn't do that on a big block because it's a percentage of the total that you're taking away that's going to affect it. So if you take away 10 cc's on a little motor with a small chamber, that can affect it a lot. But if you take 10 cc's out of a big block that's 120, it's not going to affect it very much, or not as much. Richard, the intake you just showed us is a 60-degree V6. That's what I thought. 2.8, 3.1, 3.4. Okay. I don't see myself ever building one of those, but just having that manifold makes me want to do it. 19, thank you very much. Jonathan, you want to buy this intake if it's for it is for a 60-degree V6. The chili bomb definitely needs to happen. I think when you reach 200 subs, you should give away one of your Junkyard LSs. I think you should give away something that's like that, but it'd have to at least have a cam or something, right? Yeah, if the crank's bad in the 6-liter, and then you can use that block and you can use those pistons, you're gonna have to take those pistons off and put them on the 4.8 rods. But then it's a better 4.8. It's because it's bigger. Kevin, you think twin 3067s will make 1,000 horsepower? Will 862s pick up 1 or 2 points with flat tops in a less than 2 and a little more than 1? Because you're going to go from a 69 or 70 It depends on what the 317 head. Some of the 317 heads we've measured have been 71 or 72. So it's going to be more than a full point. But it's easy to calculate if you just go to Wallace Racing Compression Calculator online. Just do a search for Wallace Racing Compression Calculator. They have all of these calculators. You can do displacement, you can do all kinds of stuff, mile an hour, speed, all kinds of things. But they have compression, and so you can plug in the numbers and just change that from whatever the 317 head is to whatever your 706 head is, and it will tell you exactly the amount that you're going to go up or down. You have 4.5 liter 276 Buick Stage 2. That's kind of cool. The Chili Bomb is the intercooler that looks like an old Cherry Bomb muffler. And then when I showed it to Freiberger, I said, "Look, this is an intercooler." I said, "It looks like a Cherry Bomb muffler." He goes, "Well, then you should call it a Chili Bomb." And so, therefore, it's officially named. Oh, Liv, if you're here in the house, oh, there you go. You are here. I'm sorry I didn't answer your email today. I'm definitely interested in the inline 6-cylinder Pontiac, and I'm hoping the noise that you're talking about is not a crank or a rod. You know, as long hopefully it can be fixed. If it's a top end kind of thing, I'm hoping it's a rocker or something. That would be much better. But whatever it is, I would like to get the motor somehow. So let's get on the phone and we'll talk. I would like to get that motor and make it work, and obviously turbocharge it because you have to. Even if it's got a 1-barrel carburetor, I think it would be cool even just to make a manifold. But I'm sure I could probably get a hold of another 4-barrel manifold or something, or make something that looks cool at least. And then you know, you always need to run a little bit of boost on it. But that would definitely be other guys' stuff. And if you need help with your 6-liter whatever, let me know and I'll do whatever I can. How do you feel about the Holley Sniper EFI and the 5.3 for all motor build, maybe with a little bit of NOS on the weekend? Is the Sniper EFI the throttle body injected one? Big Bang twin turbo 4.3 liter V6. Let's see here, Charles. We use HP tuner as a stock ECU. Yeah, that works good, and that's what Mike did on his Turbo 8.1. Yeah, McLaren, that would be nice. Oh, Clifford does a 4-barrel manifold for that Pontiac. I guess I don't know as much about the Clifford offerings. I know that they did stuff for the 292 for the other inline 6-cylinder Chevys, but I didn't know that they did it because that's a pretty limited production, I think, for that Pontiac motor. A W12 motor on the dyno, that would be good. Oh, and the other thing that Mike has that's really cool is, and he actually offered to maybe allow me to run it, is he has a 3.5 liter J series Honda that he's putting in an early Ranchero. It's a Ranchero, right? And not a Falcon. I can't remember which one you told me it was. I know it's one of those because I like those little cars. I like those early ones. Those are nice. But it's a turbo J series, like the one that my buddy has, Jimmy from HP, has in the NSX. So he J swapped the NSX, and Mike has one in this early Ford, and his is a J35. So he's got the kind of big boy one, a bit better than the 32. Not quite a 37. And actually, I told him that I was concerned about the centralized port on the head on those, but he said that BZ said that they could make lots of power, so I definitely would trust those guys. Lots of 67 and 68 Firebirds came with the overhead cam 6-cylinder. But the thing is, when you say lots of 67 and 68 Firebirds, they made a handful of those compared to other cars. And then how many of them are still working? How many of them are still available? They put the 6-cylinder engines from GM in everything else, in trucks and all kinds of stuff. Did they put that Sprint motor in Pontiac trucks too? I don't know if they did or not. Oh, a Falcon. Okay, it was a Falcon. Monza, do they have a J35? Do they have the J Series 2 small block? Is there a J Series of small block adapter so that we could run it on the dyno easily? I can give you, Michael, I can give you the part number that's on there. The part number is 140448. 03 for the lid and 04 for the lower manifold. So that's the part number if anybody wants to look it up. Shay, I have LS2 with a tow cam, TBS intake, 90mm throttle body, long tubes, 3-inch exhaust, high flow cats, MagnaFlow, Blanc air, and tune. You're not missing anything. An LS2 already has pretty good heads. It has 243 heads. The Trailblazer S intake is good. It's better than the LS2 intake manifold is. So I think you're all good unless you wanted to go with more camshaft. Okay, those are the part numbers if you found. Okay. The Chevy 3.8, 4.3 liter. So it does work on a 4.3 liter? Man, if I knew that, I would have run them on my. Now I have to go get a 4.3 liter. The 229 intake is really narrow. Okay, the 60-degree V6. Okay. Check with Kennedy Engineered Products for adapters. They use those until the raised runner intake came out for the 4.3 bow tie engine. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, oh, you don't know if it'll fill a production head. Yeah, it might not be. This might have been for... That looks like a pretty good size quart. Hold it up again? Okay. Wah. Wah, wah. You want to see inside? Let's see if I can take these bolts off. Four barrel. Whoa. And it's basically a cross ram. Looks a lot like the cross ram manifolds. They had a 4-barrel on each side, then it would be like the DZ302 cross ram. Let's see, 2006 Chevy Silverado 5.3. I have the truck Norris cam. I drive it great. Stock tranny. I could benefit from a stall converter. I have a 7875 turbo kit, tranny upgrade, or turbo kit first. If you have a 4L60E transmission, I'm surprised that it's still alive with what you have. The turbo is probably going to hurt the trans, I would imagine. Web page says it only fits 20. Well, a 23-degree head is a stock head, right? That's what the stock valve angle is. Tyler, you need a turbo to test on your 3800. What is it you're trying to test? Can you build a 427 stroker? I've already done that a bunch. I have videos up on that already. It was a 427 LS stroker and a 468 and a 495. I don't know if you can do links in the chat. All right, Mike, thanks for dropping that stuff off. Two more minutes that I should have said 30 minutes ago. So Charles, they're made they're made out of Pringles. I want to see Richard do a budget 427 single over cam FE build. I think he's been hanging out with Dan too much. Yeah, Amos, I hope to airflow test the head tonight. Yeah, budget camera forward. All of those, right? Budget Boss 9 would be like that too. I think I would just call Kazi on that one. I would like to build the one that I want to build in the Ford immediately. I mean, I do want to do an FE. I want to do it just a 390 build, but I do want to do. I would really love to do that 429 Super Cobra jet. Will an LS2 cam perform good on an L33 5.3 liter? Take a look at the video that's up, and I show you exactly what it does on a 5.3. I tested all of the factory cams. The video's up. Do a search. Go to the playlist, the NALS playlist, and I tested all of the factory cams, LS1, LS2, LS3, LS6, 7, 9, all of them on a 5.3, and you can see what the LS2 cam does. It does pretty good. It loses power down low compared to the stock cam, but it makes a lot more peak power. Richard will have to enable that feature. Only moderators can post links by default. I think that's the way it works. I'll have to check and see what that is. Hey, I'm 16. Well, welcome to all the performance stuff. Been watching now for a while. I got a 98 Civic hatch with a B18 A1. Okay, 68 millimeter turbo, making 334. I blew the head gasket. What should the top of my pistons look like? Is that a flat top? I'm trying to remember what it's been a long time since I saw a B18 non-VTEC motor. Does somebody else know what the piston is? It a dish piston? The B16 is a small dome. So does the Type R. So does the GSR. I'm thinking maybe it's a flat top. Okay, Puppet Master said, yeah, it is. It should be flat. It shouldn't be broken. If you blew a head gasket, you got one of two problems normally. You're running out of fuel, or you have too much timing. So I would check those things. And carbon buildup is normal, especially if you're in California, especially with the California gas. Okay, Amos, I'm going to be leaving before I put the motor back up anyway to test it. So I'll just be gathering parts now to do more testing with the 8.1. We will be able to, I want to run, the next time I come down, I want to run a camshaft or multiple camshafts through this thing. I want to make sure that I have springs on it. We'll test that intake manifold. I'd like to try rockers. I forgot to ask Brule today if he has the dart manifold is coming, so we'll also run that. And the other thing I want to check, and Amos, you might be able to let me know, and then I've got to get going. Has anybody run the MSD ignition controller for the LS on these 8.1s on a carbureted application? Has anybody ever run that? Like if you put the dart manifold on there and didn't put a distributor in there, we just capped the hole and put the ignition controller on there. We might have to, because Ish had to swap the 2 wires on the crank signal, but it's a 1X, so I think that it has the right signal, and I think that we could make the ignition controller from the LS1 or for the LS1 from MSD work on this motor and then run a carburetor with it. So let me know if you think that that's possible. Okay, you did run a 6014 on one? Okay, perfect. That's great. That's what I was talking to Ish about that, and we wondered if it was possible. .408 versus 427 for Vortec V7 supercharger streetcar. It depends on how much you're going to turn that up. For a centrifugal supercharger, I would go with a bigger motor, unless the bigger motor is just way more money. But the bigger motor is going to make more average power, and a centrifugal blower needs that because it's going to have less boost down low than it does at the top. So by making the motor bigger, you're filling in that lower and middle part. You'll have plenty of top end power because that's what the thing does. It charges hard on the big end on those centrifugal blowers. So guys, I got to get going. I can't stay here all night. I got a motor I got to run. Thank you guys all for showing up, and I will see you guys tomorrow.